Good evening. We are live from the One More Round studio here in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. Casey Gisclair here. It is a busy time in southeast Louisiana indeed. It's a little bit of a dark day, I guess, in some respects, in that the LSU baseball team that everyone has been paying so much attention to over these last couple of weeks, they were eliminated from the College World Series last night. They were swept 2-0 by the Florida Gators, or 2-0 in the series, rather. The decisive game last night was a 6-1 victory for the Gators. It was it's funny, wrote a column in Dig Baton Rouge this past week, or actually today, where talking about how it was just a situation where everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Tiger team. They didn't have their pitching aligned the way that they wanted to, with Eric Walker getting injured and Alex Lang not being available till later in the series. Last night making some fundamental errors, because errors that resulted in runs, having guys in scoring position just couldn't quite cash in. But I guess the prevailing theory is it was pretty much a successful season. I mean, anytime you could be the national runner-up out of 300-plus teams, you got to be excited about that. The Tigers have a lot coming back, especially on the mound. They have Caleb Gilbert back, Zach Hess back, a lot of relief pitchers, Bush and Beck, and all these guys that they have. They're going to be coming back. I think there's going to be a bright future for the LSU baseball team, but we're going to be talking about that here. We're going to have Richie Mott, one of our partners here at One More Round. He's going to be on the line, taking a Skype call with us to talk about some LSU baseball. But yeah, that's really where it stands, is the Tigers were locking horns with the Gators, and we're going to go to the phone lines now. I believe we're efforting Richie Mott. If he picks up his phone, let's see.
Hello.
Hey, Richard. Hey, you there, man?
Yeah, this is me.
Hey, yeah, this is Casey at One More Round Studio. We're welcoming you aboard. You're one of our partners here. Talking some LSU baseball here. We got Mello in the studio, and the Tigers lost against Florida, and dropped a 2-0 series. It was a disappointing series for LSU in a lot of ways, and just I guess wanted to get your thoughts about the way things played out over in Omaha, man.
My opinion, it was pretty exciting, I guess, at some points, and then also bad officiating as well.
Yeah, and here's I guess one the thing I'm trying to get from you is, LSU fans, they're so emotional, they're so passionate, they have so much pent up energy in them. I'm seeing a lot of things on Twitter and social media, man. They're blaming Kramer Robinson, man. They're saying that LSU needs to fire Paul Maneri, and they're saying this and that and the other. I guess kind of what I'm getting at is why can't folks just sort of be satisfied? I mean, you were the national runner-up, for goodness sakes. Why can't these fans be happy for at least a second?
No, I agree, man. I was fortunate enough to attend over half a dozen games this season at Alex Box, and got to see these guys play firsthand. Midway through the season, man, everybody was just giving up. And they fought through it. I mean, we won the SEC tournament, and they fought through it and did well, man. A lot of people didn't think they were going to make it as far as they did. On the Kramer Robinson thing, though, man, I've been a huge critic of Kramer Robinson all year long.
Yeah.
I personally don't like how he tries to destroy the ball and hit a home run every time. I don't think that's what he's there for. I always thought he should keep the ball on the ground. I just think that's his role, and leave the home runs to the heavy hitters. I mean, he was, he hit a few midway through the season. He was on a roll, but I mean, they were playing, subpar teams as well.
Yeah, and look, Mata, I agree with you on that, and I think that's a very fair criticism. I guess, the thing that I take issue with is, and I'm guilty of this at times too, but the folks that are criticizing the guy because, they show his mom in the stands, or where he's wearing these Jordan cleats or whatever it may be. And I guess my thing is, what 21-year-old in the world is not going to want, hella fresh cleats on their feet while they're playing in the World Series? So I just think some of the criticism maybe is a little bit unwarranted. But on the field, I agree with you. I do think he overswings, and I think he's pressing out there trying to do too much.
Yeah, I don't criticize the guy for any off-field antics. I mean, I think, we're all huge backers of Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he has, a lot of antics outside of his sport. So I'm not a criticizer of any, out of sport antics. I always criticize a player or a fighter or anybody about what they do on the field or in the ring or on the court.
And I guess the next topic is shifting a little bit from Kramer and talking more about the LSU pitching staff. I got a question for you. We all are coaches here in this room in some form or fashion. So you got a guy in Zach Hess. He's a freshman. He may be the best closer in the country right now. He is unbelievably good in these short spurts. He could get you 3 outs, 6 outs, maybe even 9 outs on a given night. He's got a great fastball, a great slider, and he has that aura about him of, hey, it's the end of the game when I come in. I'm the wild thing kind of thing. But there are reports out of Baton Rouge. LSU wants to make this guy a starting pitcher next year. And I got to tell you, I think that's a big mistake. I'm of the belief that if he got something working, stick with it. I would leave him in the closer role. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the question, I know my thing is I also agree with the starter role. I think he should be in a Jared Poshik type role, be a Saturday guy, because, then you put the pressure on Maneri and his staff to, find you some solid starters. I mean, you're losing, arguably the 2 best LSU baseball players that's ever played.
Sure.
In Poche and Lang. And that's your defense. I mean, you need some guys on the mound, and right now, Hess is your best option.
Yeah, and I hear you, man. I guess here's my counterpoint or my counter argument to that is LSU pitched or played in the finals of the College World Series, and their best pitcher didn't play, Alex Lang, because sometimes starters are not available. But a closer's available pretty much every game. And I guess my feeling is I like knowing that Hess could maybe impact 30 or 40 games during the season, whereas a starter, 15 or 20. I don't know. I just like knowing as a fan. And look, I know starters are invaluable, but with the way the bats are today, I think it's a little easier to be a starter. You just throw strikes, they're going to get themselves out. I like, as a fan, knowing, hey, I got the lead in the 7th or the 8th. This game's over.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue that. You definitely need some solid closers. I mean, LSU showed that issue, like I mentioned a little while ago, midway through the season. I mean, you couldn't win midweek games. They was very inconsistent on midweek starters, late game closers. I mean, Heston wasn't a solid closer until, 3 quarters through the season. I mean, Maneri didn't know who he wanted to start. I say start, but who he wanted to close a game. That was Newman's role at the beginning of the season. I mean, obviously Hess, outperformed him on the field, but I mean, it's a hard decision. I mean, that's definitely something Maneri and his staff is going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out after losing 2 key players on that team.
Sure.
If they want to make it back to all for sure.
Sure, and I guess, kind of put a bow on some LSU-related things. One of the big topics, one of the big controversial issues that everyone sort of was talking about was Monday night. The Tigers opted to throw Russell Reynolds in the first game against Florida. Jared Poche could have maybe come back and pitched on short rest. They opted not to do that. I wasn't crazy about that move. I thought that it maybe gave Florida a little bit of momentum. They were underdogs in the series, and I think that winning that first game, having that big pitching advantage in the first game, maybe gave them momentum. And I think Mott, it also made LSU tight in game 2, where we saw some of the errors and some of the mistakes. I thought maybe they were pressing a little bit. What was your thoughts as they decided to hold the 2 top pitchers until game 2 and game 3?
Well, the championship reflected that, man. Sure. I mean, Florida definitely. I mean, you heard it on the TV countless times last night that they put all their chips in. They were in it to win it. Maneri was in it for the long run. That's the way I looked at it. He was in it just to stretch it out. He was hoping to win that second game. I didn't. When he announced the pitching staff for the first game, I knew he was counting on his offense, and there's no offense when you got one of the best pitchers in the country pitching against your team. and as inconsistent as the bats have been this year for LSU. Now, I think we had all talked about this. I might have talked about this with Mello. A huge hit for LSU was that injury to Walker.
Sure.
And I think everybody knows that. Obviously, Walker would have been one of those starts. And, I mean, I believe it would have been a whole different World Series. We would possibly be watching an LSU game tonight if Walker was in this game.
That's a great point, and I'll do you one better, is that everyone all year long has been complaining, oh, man, Bo Jordan this, Bo Jordan that. If his brother Bryce Jordan would have been in the lineup this year, look, Bryce is a first-team All-SEC guy. Every time where we're having these at-bats where it was the 8-hole or 9-hole hitter batting and we were pulling our hair out because we weren't confident the guy would make the hit, if Bryce Jordan's in that lineup, the entire LSU offense looks much different, and they didn't have him all year.
Oh, I agree. Now, you know, if we're going to talk about Bo Jordan, earlier in the season, again, I was a critic for Bo Jordan. I never liked Maneri's decision to keep him in the lineup. I mean, obviously that's why he's coaching LSU and I'm not. But he came out strong, man, in Omaha. He did well. He was very inconsistent in the season, man. He wasn't great, but he made it count when it mattered. It just wasn't enough, man.
Now, the big play, the big controversial play where there was the interference call and LSU did not score the run and it ended up being a double play and what have you. Here's the thing. And I talked about this on social media. I talked about this on Facebook and on Twitter. I agree. It was interference. I mean, the right call was made. I just don't understand, buddy, why the guy on third had to go back to his base when Florida was conceding that run. I mean, by the time the infraction occurred, the runner had already crossed and had scored. I mean, I'm not asking you to rewrite baseball rules, but it just felt like a ridiculous rule to me that the runner at third had to go back.
I agree. Now, when that happened, I was driving on my way home, actually from the studio, and a comment that I hate and that kept getting repeated last night was, it's the right call because that's the way the rule is written.
Yeah.
I hate that comment. If that's the way the rule is written and everyone disagrees except the rule book, why not vote to change the rule? I mean, yes, it was the right call. You can obviously see it. But to me, that wasn't the most frustrating call of the night. To me, it was definitely the out at second. Was it Josh Smith that tried to steal second?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the most frustrating call for me. I mean, to me, the guy got on the bag, he got back on, never touched him, but he was called out.
And that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Is you talk about rules being worded poorly and everything like that. Why in the hell don't we have replay on every base? Why is it only on plays at home plate? If you're going to have replay, and college baseball is trying to expand their replay system, and hey, bravo, I applaud them on doing that. That's the right thing to do. But why in such a critical spot there was LSU not able to challenge that play? It just looks really, really bad. And it's sour grapes, LSU lost, whatever. You know, we're a little grumpy about it, but it's not just, look, LSU won a game because of a bad call. They won a game because of a fair ball that was called foul. So by and large, I just think this replay system in college baseball is terrible. You could only challenge certain things and other things just have to let pass by. If we're going to commit to getting everything right, then let's get everything right. I think it's absurd the way those rules are written.
Yeah, I agree. But, I mean, I guess I contradict myself as well in saying that I'm an old school baseball fan. I believe that, like a lot of baseball fans, baseball is probably the most pure sport, and I hope it stays that way. You put a replay on a lot of things and it changes stuff, but then you get situations like last night, or a couple situations throughout the series, I mean, where you could bring in a replay and reverse the call. But then again, it takes away some of the excitement of a baseball game. You want to speed up the game. I know that's a big conversation. A lot of people talk about it, speeding up a baseball game. And if you slow it down with a replay, man, I mean, that's going the opposite direction of what the game's trying to do today.
Yeah, and I hear you, but I think one way to speed up the game that is a little more practical is don't let pitchers throw back to first base 100 times in an at-bat. I think that's one way that you could speed up the game while also allowing there to be a replay system.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we could sit here and talk about all the bad calls, but there was also a few coaching mishaps on the field from Maneri that I didn't like. Again, the errors stacked up last night. You had Zach Watson. The kid's been coming up strong all year long, making play. I'm not even talking about his bats. I'm talking about his field play.
Yeah.
And I know you know what I'm about to go into is,
Yeah.
I don't remember who hit it, but he hit the ball in the outfield, center field, ground double, hit over the wall. Whether the sun was in his eyes or not, I mean, it was probably the right call by him. He couldn't see it, so he just backed off. But, I mean, that's a play that could have been made. He could have stopped it. But I think LSU shot themselves in the foot a couple of times, man. Again, with the errors and also the coaching. There was a few decisions that I didn't like.
Yeah, and it felt like to me, like when you play blackjack and you get, a queen and a jack, you got 20. You're feeling really good about your hand. Then the dealer uses about 6 cards to get a 21. That's what it felt like to me. It was a gut punch the way this team played so well throughout the entire postseason and then really struggled in the World Series finale. That's what it felt like. It was a little bit of a gut punch.
I agree.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're talking with Richie Mott. We're going to ask you, Richie, to stay on the line. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to go to Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're going to have Damian St. Pierre on to join us. We're going to do some NBA free agency talk. I'm happy right now. My Houston Rockets made a big move today. We're going to get how the guys feel about that. We're also going to talk. Drew Brees had some interesting comments today, and I'm going to bounce that off of the guys as well. You're